Hello there. Very good evening and welcome to Let's Talk Politics. I'm your host, Eddie Layne, and of course, this program, as we always tell you every time you're on, is dedicated to examine the progress being made by the People's Progressive Party civic government in office, um, and of course, at the same time, to respond to the misinformation, the lies, and the divisive rhetoric coming from the opposition, APNU, AFC, an app that has become very a regular feature of their daily output. So I have with me this evening the Honorable Bishop Juan Edghill, the Minister of Public Works. Minister Edghill, good evening and welcome to tonight's program.
Well, good evening, Eddie, and good evening to all of your viewers and listeners. And it's certainly a joy to be here again to Let's Talk Politics.
I want to start, Bishop, with um, the government of Guyana's vaccination program and how successful that program has been since it was launched. Um, we have managed to vaccinate a significant part of the Guyanese population. Uh, Over 100,000 persons with the first dose, and way over, I think, 250,000 people, sorry, over 100,000 with the second dose, with both doses, and way over 250,000 persons with the first dose. Um, there is a recognition by the government that vaccination is one of the critical ways of pulling us out of this pandemic so that the country can return to some level of normalcy, um, like what is happening in places like New York, etc., where they're beginning to return to some level of normalcy as a result of the massive vaccination program. We are proud as a country, as a people, that we can boast about being the leader in the Caribbean when it comes to our vaccination program. We have done, we have vaccinated per capita or based on our population more than any other country in the region. Also, even to countries with larger populations than ours, their numbers are below us. One recognition of the government of Guyana is that, or one of the commitments rather from the government of Guyana is that we must invest in vaccines. We are not going to sit and wait on vaccines to come to us, but we have been investing. The government of Guyana would have been investing. I'm seeing now the Sinopharm, a batch of the Sinopharm that was purchased has arrived, and that is being administered along with the other vaccines. But Bishop, the recognition of our vaccination program and the efforts of the government, or the efforts of the government, have not gone unnoticed. Hence, the recent the recent allocation of resources by the World Bank um, for Guyana. I think it's 6 million US dollars to assist with our vaccination program is testimony to the success of this program.
Well, Eddie, the way to begin is by first taking the opportunity to commend my colleague, Dr. Frank Anthony, the Minister of Health, and his team at the Ministry of Health, and of course, all of the health teams throughout the various regions who are putting themselves at risk to ensure that every Guyanese would have the opportunity to be vaccinated. The leadership and the hard work of the Ministry of Health must be taken note of and must be applauded and saluted by all of us. Secondly, we could never talk about our successful vaccination program without recognizing the leadership on this matter by His Excellency the President himself. President Ali stood out as a champion leader in managing and handling this pandemic in the Caribbean. As a matter of fact, we had our lockdowns, we had our curfews. We recognized that we needed to do things differently. We needed to get on with public education. We needed to put in place mechanisms for sanitizing and ensuring safety and social distancing and following all of the international protocols. But we understood as well, President Ali understood as well, that a key and critical component is vaccination. And making vaccines available to the population is something that must never be taken light of. Whether it was AstraZeneca, Sinopharm, Sputnik V, and now the possibility of getting Pfizer, President Ali, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Minister of Health, have been engaging and continue to engage international partners bilaterally, multilaterally, and the various agencies to ensure that a country called Guyana, where we live, there must be vaccines available for every adult citizen. And now we are moving towards having vaccines available for those under 18 years. Now, the reality is that we have vaccines for everyone who would wish to be vaccinated. I noted you quoted the numbers earlier, more than 250,000 people, first dose, more than 100,000 fully inoculated with both doses. And we were able to do this in an environment of a pushback from an uncaring, insensitive propaganda that was closely associated, if did not originate, with the main opposition, APNU, AFC. We were able to achieve this in the midst of the opposition leader calling for a suspension of the use of the Sputnik V. We were able to do this in the midst of the misinformation campaign and the propaganda that was being circulated, and the unwillingness of some leaders in political constituencies to even come up front and provide leadership to save life. So the, the public education campaign, the actual making the vaccines available, the personnel being in place to administer those vaccines while keeping themselves safe, getting families to understand the initiatives that came on board with the various drive-through facilities, which proved to be a great success. These are all things that we should admire. I'm looking forward for every Guyanese being vaccinated. We've just, I think it was a few nights ago, we received 88,000 doses of Sinopharm, and I know for sure President Ali, Vice President Jagdeo, and Dr. Frank Anthony, they are working feverishly to ensure that we could have, in the very shortest possible time, the second doses of the Sputnik V vaccine. So just look at Trinidad. We don't have to go too far. Just look at Barbados. We don't, sorry, Brazil. We don't have to go so far. We've had too many deaths, and we regret everyone who would have died. But Dr. Frank Anthony has kept repeating it. No one who's been fully vaccinated has been hospitalized in the ICU or has died. Is not an important message enough to send? While we would have had a reduction of those who are in the ICU, moving from 21 to 12 and 14, we don't want people in the intensive care unit struggling and battling for life. The supply of oxygen at hospitals of come under stress. There have been such greater demand because of what is taking place. Vaccination. Once you are vaccinated, it reduces the risk of you, number one, contracting the virus. And even if you get the virus, of being hospitalized or being seriously ill. So, at best, at this time, your government, the PPPC administration, the Irfan Ali led government, has done what is best for the people of Guyana. Make sure we have vaccines. I know the opposition has tried to throw wool and try to lessen the impact and importance of this by trying to suggest that something was wrong with the price. But what would you pay for the life of a friend, a brother, a mother, a sister, a grandfather, or any one of us? We paid what was the market rate in a competitive environment. There are countries who don't have any. Guyana, we were able to negotiate and get supplies. There have been a delay in the Sputnik second dose, but that delay came in the midst of a major player in Guyana, the opposition leader saying, suspend, and making spurious allegations against the suppliers that were coming to Guyana. We have to battle through all of that to ensure the safety and well being of our people. And then, in the midst of this pandemic and responding with vaccinations, we had the major situation of the floods of 2021. And there is evidence yesterday when I sat with Minister Anthony and my other cabinet colleagues, along with the Prime Minister, to taking the CDEMA report on the assessment of the flood. Minister Anthony showed me on his phone how the floods really impacted heavily on the vaccination program. Because since we had communities that were flooded, one, people were battling for life and livelihood from floodwaters and look after their farms, to get their animals to safety. Vaccination slowed down. But you know what? The Ministry of Health and its people have been relentless in their efforts to ensure that we guide Guyanese to safety. We continue to make the vaccines available, providing the service and getting it to the people. So that is something that we must admire and we must commend our leaders, President, Vice President, Minister Anthony, and his team. Mr. Layne, I think we've gotten lost, or
You hearing me, Bishop?
yes, I am.
Okay, yeah. No, I was saying that just to get the figures quickly to you, that the total number of persons who have received the first dose is 233,134, and this is as of 30th June, yesterday. And the second dose, or both doses, 108,752. So the number of persons who have been vaccinated so far is a significant number. But I want to go back, Bishop, and I want us to have some discussion on um, and I identify the fact that um, the the World Bank, that 6 million US, is a demonstration that our vaccination program is working. But more importantly, it is a demonstration that there is a renewed confidence in Guyana. We could recall that a number of international agencies prior to August 2nd last year would have disengaged Guyana even before the elections. I think since around just after the no confidence motion when the then government, the AP and UAFC, started with all the gymnastics, if you want, trying to prevent an election since December 21st, 2018. So what we saw there, the World Bank coming forward, and we can recall that APNU, before they came out of office on August 2nd, they had applied to the World Bank for financing for COVID-19, along with other countries in the Caribbean. But other Caribbean countries received financing from the World Bank, and there was no response to Guyana. I think 5 million US dollars, Jordan had said. Now the World Bank has responded and has made available 6 million US dollars to Guyana. That is a sign of renewed confidence, as Minister Dr. Ashley Singh puts it, that these organizations, not only the World Bank, but many others, are now re engaging Guyana because they have confidence in the country. They recognize that you have a legitimate government in place, and a government that stands ready and has been working assiduously to improve the lives of citizens, whether it means providing vaccination to protect them from the COVID-19, whether it means responding to the flooding and to ensure that lives and livelihoods are protected, whether it means providing scholarship opportunities for our citizens, improving road infrastructure, improving bridges, ensuring potable water to people, ensuring electricity, ensuring that house lots, people can own properties. So the list goes on, Bishop. But it all fits into the fact that the government has demonstrated, one, its willingness, its openness to ensure that citizens are treated fairly and that they benefit from the resources of the state, and the fact that Guyana has a democratically elected government. International organizations have recognized and have begun to re-engage Guyana um, in multiple ways.
Eddie, it's beyond just democratically held elections. It's about the conduct of a democratically elected government. It is clear that the international community have recognized that the PPPC administration, number one, was legitimately and democratically elected. So they are rightfully in office. And secondly, the actions of this administration since taking office is under scrutiny, but for the world to see. And what have been the findings? A government that takes care of its people, a government that makes the resources of the state available for the benefit of all the people, a government that is accountable for its actions at the level of the parliament by ensuring there are disclosures, ensuring that processes are followed, and ensuring that the end user or the beneficiary of its programs are the people of Guyana. So here it is that an agency like the World Bank would have made available funding to support what the government is already doing. So the World Bank did not just come out of the sky and says, we're giving you money. They would have seen from we have reorganized our budget, we have created expenditure along the contingencies funds advance to ensure the adequacy of funding for the procurement of vaccines. And this is an international player that is saying we are supporting what the government is already doing. And Eddie, the World Bank is just one of many other players. You would have seen in our current flood situation, the European Union would have made certain contributions. The American government would have made provisions in terms of cold storage for vaccines by providing support. And there are many others that we can talk about. But that is what happens when you are listed among the family of democratically, constitutionally governed countries. What happens when you are rogues and you hold on to power illegally? And when you lose an election, you don't give up. And when there's a no confidence motion that is passed against you, you use the court systems to extend your time to hold on to power. International organizations and countries draw back and says, hey, hold a minute. These are not the kind of people that we will want to fund, support, identify with. So every time a sovereign state moves itself away from democratic norms and democratic principles, the only people that benefit are those autocrats or those who hold the reins of power because they could benefit from the resources of the state, but the people suffer. So you know a caring government when the architecture that they create ensures that the people benefit. And that's the difference between the PPPC that is currently governing Guyana and the APNU AFC that governed over the last 5 years that saw tremendous suffering and hardships that came to the people of this country. And even with us being starved or denied, the term might be, of international support from major interventions to improve the welfare of our people in Guyana.
Bishop, and again, the the conduct of the then government had really placed us in serious positions. And I don't even want to go down the road to examine the sanctions and all that, those that were coming to Guyana as a result of their conduct. But the confidence here, I think, is important that we have returned to some level of normalcy. Democracy has prevailed and our country is on the path. I mean, the flood has impacted, will have economic impacts on us, but the fact of the matter is you have a committed government in place that is willing and ready to work, to ensure that our country return to its former glory of being one of the leading economies in the Caribbean. And this takes me to another issue, and this has to do with the most recent U.S. State Department's trafficking in person report, the TIP report, which was released today. Um, well, which was made public today rather, and news stories began circulating around with regards to Guyana's ranking, and obviously Guyana, based on the most recent report, has maintained its ranking along with the U.S. as a tier one. The tier one status we have maintained. Um, and the report spoke to a number of interventions from the government in 2020, particularly the back end of 2020, when you look at the number of persons who were, number of victims of human trafficking. So Guyana has continued to make every effort. What this has done, though, Bishop, is this brings to light a problem that we have been speaking about for the longest while. Even while we were in opposition, we've been talking about the trafficking in person ring, the human trafficking network that was operating. And recently, when the government took action to really put a dent on that network, and all of this will ensure that Guyana remains committed to its international treaty obligations with regards to human trafficking, etc. So we have maintained our tier two, our tier one ranking. It came at a time, however, when the big issue of trafficking, of human trafficking, particularly involving Haitian nationals. And what is funny is that the deafening silence from the opposition, which has been accusing us, when the government took a decision, His Excellency decided to revoke the visa free travel status for Haitians. You are hearing that it's a racist move. It's a move that is this targeting persons of African descent, all sorts of things. There has been a deafening silence over the last 3 to 4 days when the story broke of uh, over 70, over 70 to be exact, 71 foreign nationals, 60 of whom are Haitians, were left starving for 7 days in Guyana's interior. So the Region 10 commander, Superintendent Hugh Winter, was quoted in one of the local newspapers talking about the nationals, detailing how they were left in the interior. And there were reports of them being left there because they had to pay a bribe every time they passed a police roadblock. They were paying all sorts of people, um, and they were being exploited. They were being trafficked. So the opposition has gone absolutely silent on this matter. So they're not concerned. They should be concerned now that 70, as they're claiming to be the champions of people of African descent, but 60 persons here, including children of African descent, Haitians, were being trafficked, were being exploited, were left in the jungle to starve for 7 days without food, had to be rescued by the police, given food and brought to Georgetown. The state is trying to work out to ensure that either they return home, or whatever could be done to ensure their welfare, they're protected. The similar situation in Berbice, where the Haitians were locked in rooms. You are not hearing anything from Harman and his gang, the champions, who the so-called champions of people of African descent. And this is the kind of racist exploitation, if you want, by the PNC, the opposition, that they use every opportunity to claim there is discrimination and there is racism.
Eddie, you would recall that very early in the APNU AFC's government, the life in government, we had raised concerns about two ministries: the Ministry of Citizenship and the Ministry of Social Cohesion. As a matter of fact, in Parliament, in my first budget debate, I had said the Ministry of Social Cohesion is a reincarnation of the Ministry of National Mobilization under the PNC, and some people had difficulty. But we had started getting reports of Haitians coming in large numbers and being met at the airport, not curbside, when they're finished clearing immigration and customs, but they were being met airside before they go to immigration and customs. Now, they're only special people who could get to airside of the airport. Currently, I am the minister responsible for aviation and the minister responsible for the airport. You either have to be a Ministry of Foreign Affairs protocol officer, a duty officer, or staff of the airport, or someone on application to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs with a special permit to be able to receive your guests airside. But it was standard. So whoever was the minister responsible for aviation and the minister responsible for citizenship, because in full view of immigration officers, which fell under the Ministry of Citizenship, persons were meeting these Haitians before they approached immigration and arranging for their processing at immigration. Then they were bundled into buses. Those of us who traveled across the length and breadth of Guyana would have known about Haitians on the Suriname ferry, Haitians in large quantities crossing over to Brazil. And when the questions were asked in Parliament about the number of arrivals and the numbers of departure, Mr. Felix couldn't really answer the question. And one is now left to wonder if human migrant trafficking was facilitated or actually managed by the then administration. The people need to decide on that. But you know, when people want to play the race card, and it would appear that the race card is the only card that the APNU AFC has in its hands. It cannot attack the PPPC on its programs because our programs are broad based. They claim that Region 10 is their stronghold. Look at the government's interventions in Region 10 as it relates to flooding at this time. They cannot complain, they can't criticize it. Look at government's intervention in Region 10, which is still the lowest where vaccinations are concerned, about trying to get people to become vaccinated. They cannot complain about the aggressive nature, the availability, and the prominence of government's programs. But what they're trying to do now is to play with the minds of people that illegality, which is migrant trafficking, it's an illegality, it's a crime against humanity. It is something that must be condemned by all. Is that you have people who are trafficking Haitians, and to bring an end or to obstruct or to interrupt and to ensure proper screening and the avoidance of such an illegality and the exploitation of brothers and sisters from Haiti, rather than seeing the good in it, they're trying to play the race card. If it is true that all Black Lives Matter and you are there to look out for Black people, like some would want to pontificate in various programs, Mr. Harmon should be against trafficking in Haitians. Every member of the APNU AFC should be against people of African or any descent, Cubans, Brazilians, Venezuelans, being trafficked through Guyana. But you know what? It would appear, and everybody will know, if you're trafficking people, there is money that is involved. So when you start attacking the government for crushing an illegality, follow the money. Follow the money. See who was benefiting and whose purse is being hurt. See who bottom line is being affected, and you will know that by the noises that are being made. Haiti, a respected member of CARICOM. Eddie, I've had the privilege of being in Haiti several times. Haiti, the people of Haiti are proud people, industrious people, hardworking people, and yes, they have poor people. Nobody should take advantage of the circumstances of others and traffic them and exploit them and put them through the conditions that they are made to suffer. And yes, you are right. I'm still yet to see an unequivocal statement from the opposition condemning the trafficking of Haitians through Guyana. I'm still yet to see that. And I would hope, Eddie, that having the PNC, APNU leaders, having listened to this program tonight, will make such a statement, even if it lacks the necessary sincerity, because it is a statement that needs to be made that in Guyana, whether in government or in opposition, we do not condone trafficking in persons, and we do not condone people being exploited in a manner that we see taking place here. When the news broke about those Haitians who emerged from the forest, it was not surprising to me. I had seen before, years being in the opposition, traveling across the country, buses being stopped at Bamia and Haitians coming out and lining up and being photographed. We have seen that at Mabura Hill. So we knew the routes that people were taking. We saw them at Brazil, we saw them at Suriname. But the moment the government took action in, first of all, revoking the order saying that you have to have visas and all the other things that are required for proper processing. Those who were benefiting and practicing the trade started to run for cover because they know there's now a high alert. So all that really happened there are their handlers who did not want to be arrested, detected, charged, and jailed, abandoned ship and run for cover and left these people alone. These Haitians didn't walk from Georgetown to be on the Linden Lethem Trail in that forest. They were being taken to a destination, but they were abandoned there when they realized the tempo is up and the PPPC administration will not allow, whether they be Haitians, Cubans, Nigerians, Venezuelans, Brazilians, people from any part of the world. We will not allow Indians, Sri Lankans, we will not allow anybody to be trafficked and exploited in that manner. And I think the US State Department has recognized the leadership of President Ali on this matter. They have recognized the work of the Trafficking in Persons Task Force, comprising of several government ministers, the work that is being done, the outreach that is there, the public education, the unwillingness to allow this to go unchecked and interventions being made. And in that review, we have come out with tier one. And I think we must be applauded and congratulated for that. And we should never ever be removed from tier one. This must be something that both government and opposition must work on together. So I look forward for the leader of the opposition at his next press conference to make a statement and to deny that the APNU AFC did not facilitate or was not a part of or was not aware that Haitians were being trafficked through Guyana.
But I think I would advise you, Bishop, not to hold your breath, to wait on the leader of the opposition because the result might not be that good. Because his minions are still parroting and carrying the line of anti-Haitian stance of the PPP, despite seeing 60 Haitian nationals, along with others, left in the interior to suffer without food, without no sense of direction, including children. And the fact that The revelations are being made about Haitian nationals being locked in hotel rooms in many parts of the country and have to be rescued by the police and so forth. And you're still hearing them uttering words of anti-Haitian uh, agenda of the PPP. So clearly, the only
It's the
thing
race
Mohammed is
card, Eddie. It's the race card. It's their only card. They have, you know, they can't improve their argument. They can't improve their argument, so they have to go to the lowest instinct, and that is to play race. They don't see exploitation. They don't see that their own brothers and sisters were being used by others to make money and to be exploited. Their limited analysis has left them to only see black Haitians, black people, and the PPP don't want them in the country. They don't realize that these people were not staying in the country. Guyana was just being used as a transit point to get these people to other destinations, and people in Guyana were profiting in real US dollars off of these Haitians. They're not seeing that.
but Bishop, the only Afro or Afro Guyanese or black people, if you want, that they were concerned about, I can list them. Trevor Ben, the gang of hustlers at GCOM, and those that were doing their bidding, including one man who was the director of parks, was getting $500,000 to be out of the country, and
The
all
cabal,
those who were, huh?
the cabal.
The cabal, all those who were involved, including the likes of Brian Tiwari and the others. Those were the quote unquote black people that they were responsible for, right? So what did they do? They were busy protecting Afro Guyanese and ensuring that they look out for their rights by actions similar to setting up of what is called, let me get the correct name of the of setting up the Partnership for Sustainable Land Management, PISLM, which, by the way, was headed, the chairman of that PISLM task force was Mr. Trevor Ben, the man who was sharing out state lands at lands and survey as though he owned it, as though he had transport for it. What is even worse is that this body was granted immunities that I think some diplomatic missions maybe don't have. So they all their archives and records, correspondence, documents, and other materials could not be used, could not be touched in simple terms by any legal officer. No legal process should involve anything of them. In essence, they were immune from prosecution, from even investigations. So this is what the document said. All archives and records, correspondence, documents, and other materials of PISLM shall be inviolable. Its property, assets, and other facilities, wherever located by whomsoever held, shall enjoy immunity from every form of legal process, except if it has waived its immunity. So, had they waived their immunity, then they could have been investigated. Worst yet, they were granted uh, they were granted exemptions, the staff and so on, from paying income tax, national insurance, customs duty, value added tax on any motor vehicle, personal household items. This was an organization created by Granger, headed by Trevor Ben, that was granted exemptions and immunities that I think some diplomatic missions here don't enjoy. So this is the protecting of Afro Guyanese, not the average Afro Guyanese. This was the protecting of the elite, the criminal cabal is what they were protecting.
Eddie, I'm happy that you raised this point. This outfit, if it had remained in place, it would have really caused great harm to the Guyanese people. You know, sitting here tonight talking with you, we have an aggressive housing program of which Afro Guyanese are beneficiaries. And I could say that without the fear of contradiction. A housing program where APNU AFC activists, APNU AFC supporters, APNU AFC card bearing members, jersey wearing members benefit from. You know why they benefit from it? Because our housing program is not directed and governed by political affiliation. And you could imagine you had a outfit like this that hoist, dole out, and give away all the lands like they were doing because Trevor Ben and that cabal, of which Granger, as president, must take responsibility for. They were not giving lands to ordinary Guyanese. They were not giving lands that every family could get a home like we would have committed. We didn't form this fancy outfit. What we said to the people of Guyana, we're going to give out 50,000 house lots. Those who worked in this outfit with all of these immunities and privileges must come to the Guyanese people, including the Afro-Guyanese community and the supporters of the APNU AFC, and said with all the perks, privileges, fancy vehicles, duty-free, non-taxable income that you enjoyed, show me one Afro-Guyanese, ordinary Afro-Guyanese, that benefited from your outfit. They can't do it. Because what they would have done was to do like what we see now with the court cases that are going on. They would have put lands in the bosoms of special people, and then they flip it for tens of millions of US dollars to foreigners, especially those who are coming here because of oil and gas. This was a carefully worked out strategy of raping this country of the ownership of lands. Mr. Charan Das must be congratulated, now High Commissioner to India, for seeing the light and said, we've had enough of this government. They were too dangerous for Guyana. We knew that they were dangerous for Guyana. But now that we are sitting in office and we are getting the files and the records and these things are popping up, you could really now see the hustle, the almost criminal enterprise that operated in the name of government and how harmful it was even to the people who elected them. Because we know for a fact, we don't have to hide, a significant amount of Afro-Guyanese voted for the APNU AFC so that they could get in office in 2015. They turned their backs on their own supporters. They turned their backs on Guyana and a cabal among themselves, enriched themselves by ensuring people outside of Guyana get what Guyanese should be benefiting from. And the benefit for them was the perks and profits that came to them individually. And that is what we brought to an end. That is what we brought to an end. When we went with a no confidence motion, we said to the APNU AFC, you've been weighed in the balances and you are found wanting. It's time for a performance review. Let's have an election. And they denied the people of Guyana from having that performance review until they couldn't move any further. And when they went up for a performance review, the people of Guyana said to them, "We've had enough. We put you there to look after our interests. And from everything we would have seen, the first thing you did was raise your salaries. You collected a signing bonus and you did not declare it. You didn't tell us. You had people who said that they never got it, and then we heard it was presumably a gift. You took care of yourselves. You didn't look after it, improving healthcare in Guyana. You bought expensive insurances for your people to go to Ireland to do their toe, hip, and knee surgeries. You didn't look after our children. You sent your children overseas on scholarships that cost tens of millions of dollars. We put you there to look after us. Compare that with the PVPC in less than a year. We've given out thousands of scholarships to our children at various levels, university, tech, VOC, training, and the rest of it. We have improved the welfare of our people. We have increased the pensions for the senior citizens. We have restored the cash grant. We have restored the water subsidy and electricity subsidy for senior citizens. We've removed the hardship measures that were placed on the backs of the Guyanese people. We have removed value added tax or VAT on essential food items. We've made life more comfortable for people. So just compare the two. The PPPC, President Ali, and his cabinet and his government is working every day for the interests and in the interest of all the people of Guyana. The wealth of Guyana will be for all the people of Guyana, with oil or without oil. The wealth of Guyana is being created and is being distributed so that all the people of Guyana could benefit. We have the Gold Scholarship Program. It's not one special set of children that will get these scholarships. From every region, we took that program all across Guyana. Yes, the PPPC took this program to South Georgetown to ensure that people in South Georgetown get registered. We took it to Sophia. We took it to Agricola. Yes, we took it to Linden. We took it to Kokwani. We took it to Bartica. We took it to New Amsterdam. And I'm naming these areas because the APA and UAFC behave as if they own these areas. But you know what? We believe in the PPPC. We had an electoral process. We had competitive politics. But now that we've been elected, you don't just govern for supporters. You govern for all the people of Guyana. And that is what we will keep doing. That is what will be our hallmark. We are pro-poor. We are pro-working class. We stand with the people of Guyana. We will improve their welfare. We are creating jobs. Our target is 50,000 jobs. We are creating not just mere labor jobs, but well-paying jobs in ICT, in tourism, jobs in the oil and gas sector, jobs in construction, jobs in agro-processing and manufacturing. Yes, jobs that will ensure that our younger people have real opportunities. We are ensuring that we have a more educated and equipped workforce by giving out 20,000 scholarships over the 5 year period. We are the first batch to get out. We are improving the lives of people by ensuring that they have proper infrastructure. They could work in better environment. We can ensure reliable electricity, bring comfort to people, to ensure businesses are able to do business with greater ease. to cut the time of getting license of businesses and reducing the bureaucracy, bringing services to the people in the communities, looking out for single moms and women, ensuring that small businesses benefit from the economic pie, ensuring that small contractors are allowed to grow. We are looking out for all the people, and that is what the APNU AFC cannot boast about. But we can, because in less than 1 year, we have changed the narrative. We have given people hope, and we have shown people it's just a matter of time. We are getting to you. When COVID came and there was hardship, we were able to give everybody a cash grant with the verification of those that had two families in a home, that they had pink slips. We are now at that phase of paying out that pink slips to ensure the gaps are filled after verification. Minister Vindhya Prasad is now helping with grants to a special group of people who were affected during the COVID period. We have promised the restoration of the Because We Care cash grant. We're getting ready to pay out those cash grants in a matter of months. That is what we are doing. We are keeping true faith, and we are keeping our word to the people of Guyana.
Bishop, I know we are almost out of time, but I just want to touch. We have just about 3 minutes more. I just want to touch on one other issue, and again, I want to start examining this issue with a very popular saying: "If you do the crime, you must be prepared to do the time." And this brings me to the Annette Ferguson issue. It is a police matter. It is a report that was made to the police, and the police acted accordingly. But the reason why I'm bringing the issue up is because we have a situation where, in their usual style, Harmon and all his surrogates ran and jumped quickly to shout the PPP is somehow involved. Annette Ferguson decided to malign and to disparage a member of the Guyana Defense Force by making serious allegations against the individual. The gentleman decided to use the law, the cybercrime law, to seek legal redress or to seek redress by making a report to the police. All of a sudden, the PUP is being blamed for Annette Ferguson's stupidity. Now, I don't know if the PUP caused her to be stupid to make such a claim, or the PUP wrote on her Facebook page the madness that she wrote, claiming that the member of the Guyana Defense Force is going to be heading some killing squad in Guyana. Took the whole issue, and I don't even want to go down the road of the issue of the where it stemmed from, because I've had the Minister of Legal Affairs addressing some aspect of that. We have had occasions where the Minister of Home Affairs and the Minister of Governance and Parliamentary Affairs also addressing the issue. So I think the issue has been addressed, the issue has been cleared. The issue here now is that Annette Ferguson committed a crime, is being held accountable, but the PVP is being blamed for her ignorance and her stupidity. So yesterday, she was arrested for the cybercrime related offense. Then Harmon and his gang jump up to say that she's being targeted by the PPP. This is the kind of madness, the kind of ignorance that you have coming from these people who call themselves, leaders.
Eddie, the language that Mr. Harmon used, that the Guyana Police Force is being weaponized against the opposition, is very instructive. Mr. Harmon used to be the Minister of State. And he must tell the people of Guyana when Roger Luncheon was arrested and Jagdeo, President Jagdeo, former President Jagdeo, now Vice President, had to go down to Soku when Ashley Singh and Brazenton and Dan Kumar Siraj and Ricky Ramraj and we could go on with a list of names of persons who were arrested and charged. Nigel Darmlal and Prema Rupnarain. And we could go on. What was the police force doing? None of them have been convicted. But what they did was that they took Soku, which was formed for the purpose of investigating financial crimes as a support to the Financial Intelligence Unit, and used it to get at their political opponents. Look who is being charged now. People who commit real crimes. GCOM officials. PNC officials who try to rig an election. People who breach the law. And you want to call that political persecution? Hogwash. Then you're going to have a police force that is impotent. We recognize that what the then APNU AFC government was seeking to do was to damage reputations. They couldn't get convictions because they knew these were all politically trumped up. Our current president was charged, I think it was 19 counts, and hauled before the court. Yes. What did he do? An allegation that he sold land at a different price than what they felt we could have gotten. That was a spurious allegation. We're talking here now a big difference between what Harmon is talking about. You write on your Facebook page, you say certain things. The police investigates, arrests you and start processing you to deal with the charges. You try to rig an election, you sign on a document, you declare false numbers. You are charged and put before the court. How could that be political persecution? Trevor Ben, giving lands and selling lands that he had no authority to sell. You ain't own it, you ain't got the power to operate it, but you're selling it. The courts will decide on that. It's a big difference. And I get the impression that Mr. Harmon, even in his message or his statement, had subliminal messages by saying the people will react, was seeking to create some kind of unease and unrest in society, and is trying to say the PPPC must be blamed for that when it happens. Well, Mr. Harmon and APNU AFC, the Guyanese people are seeing through. You lied to them. You told them you won an election. They can't believe you anymore. You cannot mobilize them to bring them out to the streets. You created an environment to harm people and put your own people in harm's way. And now by your statements, you're looking to see if you could whip up some support. No one in Guyana must be above the law. No one, absolutely no one in Guyana must be above the law.
I think we're almost out of time, but before we go, I want to pick up on something that you've mentioned there, and I'm reading from Harmon's statement. And Harmon is talking about the PUP pushing this nation to civil unrest, and him claiming that people will react, and the government The PEP will have to bear the full burden of responsibility for whatever ensues. This and these statements are statements intended to excite people, statements intended, and again, has a racial undertone. So Harmon is trying to whip up racial strife, to create confusion, to create unrest. But I want to ask Harmon, who you think will come out to support his foolishness? Guyanese are way smarter. I think Guyanese recognize that Annette Ferguson has made her bed and she shall lie on it. I'm seeing stories of her saying, imagine how dangerous these people are. Annette Ferguson is saying that she never made the post, but there's a screenshot of the post being circulated. But Annette Ferguson is claiming she never made the post, that the police checked her phone. Obviously, you're going to go and delete the post. It's obvious, but there's a screenshot of the post or multiple screenshots circulating. So Annette Ferguson has made her bed and she shall lie on it that way. Harmon has to realize that the people of this country suffered for 5 years under his party in power. And the people of this country saw what happened for 5 months after the March 2nd general and regional elections. Harmon knows that he struggled to get a few people out on the streets ever so often. Do you think Guyanese have time to come out and create confusion in the country when they are seeing opportunities being created for them? When Guyanese of all ethnic group and all political affiliation are benefiting, like you rightly said earlier, from house lots, from better roads, from jobs, from scholarships for their children, from electricity, from water, from improved standard of living, from from opportunities to create personal wealth for themselves and their families. Do you think people have time with Harmon and his foolishness and Annette Ferguson? Annette Ferguson got a lot of questions to answer, not only for her statement that she made about about the senior officer of the Guyana Police Force, linking him to some death squad, but also for a lot of things that happen in the very ministry you're now running, Bishop, and many other places. So the questions are a lot for Annette Ferguson. But Harmon has to come to the realization that Guyanese are not fools, and Guyanese will not buy in to his evil plan of wanting to destabilize and wanting to create confusion in this country. We're smarter and we have better plans. The plans of the people of this country is to build a progressive life for themselves and their families and to own assets so that they can prepare a future for their children and their grandchildren. So Harmon can continue with his foolishness and wait for people to join him. I don't know what civil unrest he's talking about. I don't know. I don't know where he got that from. But that's the thinking of Harmon, and we can recall the PNC's strategy of more fire and slow fire and all the chaos and confusion. That is what they are accustomed to. But the people of this country are smarter, way wiser, and they have their focus, their attention are on better things that will build future for themselves and their children. Bishop, I want to thank you for joining me this evening. We went about 9 minutes over our program time, but that's fine. I think we had quite a lot of things to discuss this evening. So it was a pleasure to have you here this evening. And to our viewers, we want to say thanks for being part of the program.